Hey everybody, Tom Worley here. I am a New Jersey real estate agent, and today what I want to dive into is break down the buyer agency agreement, what it is, what it means for you, and the truth is, it is now a standard part of the buying process in the state of New Jersey. So it's important that you are educated on what that is and what you're actually signing. Now, I know that contracts can feel extremely overwhelming, but my goal is to give you full clarity so we can walk through the process confidently, educated on everything, and actually have you protected in the entirety of this process. What I've seen since these have gone into effect is not enough agents in the area are truly educating and empowering their clients with understanding exactly what's in this contract. And the biggest myth that I want to bust right now is you do not have to sign one of these to see an open house. What I've experienced is other agents who are either uneducated about what these actually mean for their business, or they are actively trying to rope uneducated buyers into contractually committing to them. Is when you walk into an open house, they'll say, you have to sign this document in order to see this open house. That is not the case. So if you are going to open houses, this is, empowerment piece number one is you don't have to sign anything. Yes, you may have to sign into the open house, but you do not have to sign one of these buyer agency contracts. So that's what we're going to dive in today, is going through the contract and starting that empowerment process with you in that education process. So if you find this video useful and you find information like this useful, hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the page for more, because my goal is to deliver as much education to the process as possible. I've been in the business now for going on 12 years, and I am a former teacher in Jersey City. So I very much value the education process of buying a home in New Jersey. So with that, let's dive in. So what exactly is this contract? What you're looking at on the screen is an actual New Jersey state buyer agency agreement. And this agency agreement outlines the relationship between you as the buyer and me as your advisor, or whoever it is that you actually decide to hire. What I want you to think about this contract as is you're hiring someone to be a project manager, a consultant, an advocate, all rolled into one, and you're signing a contract with them and physically hiring that advocacy and hiring that project manager. What you're saying is, Tom, I trust you to guide us through this process, start to finish. And what I'm signing on and saying is, I've got your back the entire way. So the next part that we're going to look at is, the geography of the areas that we cover and what the different types of relationships are in that agreement. So here what you're going to see is the area in which we'll be covering. Now, I typically put New Jersey. I work a lot of New Jersey. And the truth is, while your search may start in Hudson County or Bergen County or Essex County, as your search evolves, what you may realize is maybe you actually want to be in Northern Monmouth County, in Ocean County, in Middlesex County. So to pigeonhole us into one area in specifically, that would probably be irresponsible as we continue to grow and evolve your search. So what I like to do is cast a wider net, cover New Jersey. And the truth is, with a lot of my clients, if their search evolves to an area that frankly I don't cover, I have plenty of people throughout the state that I can pass this off to and make sure that you're getting the same level of representation as though I would actually be representing you. So that's this area here. This defines the geography in which we'll be working together. The next section here that I want you to pay attention to is we also define the type of relationships. Now, I typically tend to check buyer's agent and disclosed dual agent, which means that I represent you fully. But if one of my previous clients, or I get a referral of a potential seller in an area that we're looking, says to me, hey, listen, I want to, list my home, and this fits the criteria that we've been looking at, I can now present that to you as a potential off-market opportunity that fits your search criteria. So that dual agency has to be disclosed to everybody involved in the transaction. And I only present it to you if it's a win-win situation. And if at any point you don't feel comfortable being disclosed agents where you think that there may be some form of conflict, I'm happy to, recuse myself. And that's where we come into, buyer's agent and designated agent if the opportunity arises. And what this allows me to do is say, hey, listen, instead of working with me, I'm going to pass this off to my broker. And one of the parties, either the seller or you as the buyer, will be represented by the broker of the firm, and that gives that separate advocacy and gives you each your own person to actually work for you and for that person. If you are comfortable with the disclosed dual agency, we move forward, we disclose to all parties, and we get the deal done as seamlessly as possible. And in the next part, we're going to take a look at is what are the terms of this agreement that we're going to sign, and what is the compensation associated with it. So, section 3 is going to be terms and compensation. And this part sets the term of the agreement. So, how long are we going to work together? I typically put 6 months in here, and I'll put that right in this section here because that gives us enough time to understand the market, search thoroughly, and move when the property's right. Now, the truth is, sometimes we put 6 months and that search takes 2 weeks. Sometimes it takes the entire 6 months. Sometimes it takes longer, and we may need to revisit, re-upping this contract and making sure that we add time onto it at the end. That's all going to depend on the market. It's going to depend on your motivation. It's going to depend on making sure that we find the right property that fits for you. Now, the next part, and this is the part that kind of everybody goes and they start to freak out, is going to be compensation. Now, I know that your initial thoughts are, oh my God, I have to pay my agent X amount on top of what I'm already paying to buy a house. Not exactly. The truth is, in most cases, what we are seeing is the seller is still paying the entirety or most of the entire of that commission of whatever percentage that you agree to here. There are a number of different structures here that you could put. And the truth is, a retainer fee would need to be paid up front. And that's money out of your pocket initially off the rip that you would need to put up. So the truth is, I tend to talk to my clients about paying a commission. I get paid when the deal closes. This keeps it much more along the lines of the standard operating procedure has it always been in the past, and the way that coming into this you've heard of and then you've spoken about and your other friends and family have also bought a home. The agent gets paid upon closing of the deal based on an agreed upon percentage of the actual closing price. So this tends to be the popular section here is the commission paid at closing. And this part here is percentage of the purchase price is where we'll agree to a number here. Now, the truth is, if there's some sort of shortfall in that agreed upon percentage, let's say that the seller that we agreed to X and the seller is only paying Y, right? Well, we could figure out the difference. And I have a number of different ways to offset that shortfall that gets it built into your purchase price. And I've had a lot of success doing that for my clients because the truth is buying a home is expensive. And my goal is to make sure that you don't have to write an extra check coming to the closing table for the commission. So let's keep things as smooth as possible and get creative when we get to that negotiation process with making sure that the entirety of your commission that we agreed to is built into your purchase price and built into the mortgage. That way you're not coming to the table with extra money. There is no stress of what that commission difference is going to be paid and how exactly you're going to make up that difference. So that covers the terms and how long we're going to work together. It also covers, the actual commission structure. If you got more questions on this, obviously drop a comment and I reach out to everybody individually and I'm happy to answer those comments. The next section we're going to take a look at is what's called the protection period and what that means for you and for me. So the protection period, what this section does is it protects the work that we've already done. If I show you a house during the life of our agreement and you decide, to buy that house the week after our agreement ends for whatever reason, whether it be mutually agreed upon to end our business relationship or the contract expires and you try and revisit that property, what this does is protect the work that we've already done. And I'm still going to be able to work on your behalf for that particular property. And what we typically do is we put in this box here about 60 days, right? We come to some kind of agreement. And what this does is frankly, it protects you from being able to, kind of jump out of the agreement and go behind your agent's back to buy a property that you like that they've already worked for and shown you. So that's kind of what this period does is X amount of days after the expiration termination of this agreement, the quote protection period for any property buyer visited, viewed, or was introduced to during the term of the agreement, as long as the broker provides the buyer with a list of such real estate within 10 days of the expiration of termination of this agreement. So when this expires, I'll be able to send you that list of, hey, we've seen these properties. This is what will fall under this section and fall under the protection period. What we're going to look at next is what exactly are the duties of the agent as you're working on your behalf, as well as you as the buyer. What exactly are those duties? Duties of the agent and the buyer. This section is going to spell out exactly what you should expect from me as your advisor and what I can expect from you as my client. Now, my duty is to introduce you to all of the properties that could work for you. I tend to do that regardless of the commission being offered. I will call the agent and say, are you offering any commission if that's what you want me to do? But the truth is my job is to negotiate that commission and negotiate my pay structure into that price anyway. So I'll introduce you to all of the properties. And then At that point, you get to have the decision to say, yes, I want to see XYZ, or no, I don't. The broker's responsibility here outlined in this section, truthfully, is the bare minimum of what you deserve. Right. And the truth is, you deserve, and you're certainly entitled to more. The process should be tailored to you, not this contract. My number one priority as your advisor is give you all of the information possible to make an educated and informed decision. This is your bat and ball. You get to make the calls when we're buying the home. Now, let's move on to the buyer's agency, to the buyer's side, and your responsibilities as the buyer. It's pretty simple. You agree to work exclusively with me, give accurate and up-to-date information on your financial ability to buy a home, and you agree to submit offers and allow me to work for you. That's kind of the meat and potatoes of this section here. And it's, again, this outlines the overall expectations, everything else. The truth is, by hiring somebody, again, we go back to that project manager mindset. By hiring somebody, the agent's duties also fall into making sure that you have a list of vendors, making sure that truly I can be a one-stop shop for everything that you need during the buying process, from an attorney to title to mortgage lender, down to a handyman to fix little repairs, an inspector to go through the home, a roofer if the place needs a roof, an HVAC guy, anything and everything pertaining to your home ownership. My goal here and my job is to be your one-stop shop and truly be that project manager that you hired in the beginning of this. Next, we're going to take a look at is, what is a dual agency, and is there actually a way to get out of this contract? So this section covers dual agency as well as designated agency. And we already touched briefly on both of those things earlier in this video. Just know that it's always going to be disclosed, and it'll actually be a separate addendum to the contract that you'll have to sign for both of them. But let's take a look and kind of dive into both of them. Again, the dual agency stuff would be that me or your agent represents both the buyer and the seller. And what you have to sign is a disclosed dual agency agreement, acknowledging that you understand that they do represent both parties in the transaction. The other option, if you wanted somebody to recuse themselves, the other option is to have the broker, the owner of the brokerage, step in and do what we call designated agency. When you look here, it says under New Jersey law, broker may designate two different licensees affiliated with the broker to work with the buyer and the seller in the same real estate transaction if both buyer and seller agree. So what they're doing is taking a different agent inside of the company and saying, hey, Tim, you're going to represent this person, and Tom, you'll represent this person in the transaction. And their job as the broker is to oversee the transaction, remain completely neutral, and just make sure that things get across the finish line and kind of oversee everything. Again, there's going to be a disclosure for that. It's going to have to be signed, and you're going to have to acknowledge the fact that you understand what designated agency is. The other side of this is, you should make sure that you read and sign off on the consumer information statement. And in that document, it's going to have all of the different relationships involved in a transaction and what their responsibilities are, to clearly outline, kind of your rights and what each person is inside of a transaction. Now, the last piece of this is super important. And frankly, I don't think enough agents are upfront and forthcoming with this, but that is the piece about termination. And the question is, if you wanted to get out of this contract, is there an exit route? The truth is, it is a legally binding contract. So let's take a look at the termination and the breach. The truth is, unlike some agents, I'm not looking to lock you into anything that you don't want to be. And I'm not going to hold you completely accountable to this if you don't want to be in the contract. If you are not happy, if you feel like I'm not delivering on the promises made during our initial consultation, all I ask for, written notice saying that you'd like to end our professional agreement. Now, we will defer back to that protection clause should if I have shown you any properties, but we can very much easily go our separate ways. I want you to work with me because you want to work with me, because I've earned your trust and earned your business, not because you're contractually stuck to do it. There are ways for each of us to breach the contract, whether or not you go and sign the same contract with a different agent. During the life of our contract, it is technically a breach. And it's important to understand that this is a legal contract. So read through the ways that you can breach and make sure that you understand that, what your rights are. The truth is, you should read through this entire thing with a fine-tooth comb. What I've just covered in reality is the meat and potatoes of the buyer agency. All right. It's not just paperwork, it's a framework that lets us build a successful and strategic and stress free home buying journey. So if you're thinking about making a move and you want somebody who brings clarity, education, and hustle to the table, reach out. I'm happy to walk you through this entire process with a buyer consultation and educate you on what that looks like for us to actually work together and what it looks like to buy a home. And if you found this useful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button for more real estate insights, and drop a comment below because I personally will respond to each comment and answer questions as much as I possibly can. Thanks for watching. I'm Tom Worley, and I hope to see you next time.